All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Thank whoever brought you here. You are in for a treat, and I'm looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, we are in for yet another treat because we have another self-development junkie, we have another fitness junkie, and we have another a incredible admirer of Malcolm X and so many things that he has done, so many things that he's about. I mean, I was listening to you, Sherman, just before we got on this, and there was just so many things that you've gone through and so many like ways that you've developed your mindset that I'm really, really excited to get into your philosophy. So with all that, it is Mr. Sherman Perryman. Welcome to the Move Swiftly podcast.
Man, thank you for having me on the Move Swiftly podcast, man. I really appreciate you and I appreciate being here.
Yeah, so let's get it started, man, because you described, and I was listening to, I believe it's 365. I know she's the one that interview like 365
Oh,
black.
everyday brothers.
Yeah,
Something.
something like that. I'm
Yeah.
going to get the name wrong and mispronounce it, but you were talking about how you became a very ferocious self-development reader. And so, by the
Mhm.
way, you do run a company named Militant Grind, and you also have books out and things like that. And we're going to get to that throughout the conversation. But what I like to do is I like to talk about how a person developed a mindset to go out and do great things, whether it's putting the right things in your body, whether it's working out every day, whether it's making sure the right things are going in your mind, and how they built those principles, because it
Mhm.
doesn't happen overnight. And that's something I like to reinforce to people over and over and over again. So why don't you just kind of take the mic for a little bit and, give us a little bit about your background, and then we kind of go from there.
Well, I grew up in LA, in the inner city of LA, and man, I hate talking about myself. So you gotta like probably like when people say that, it's kind of like my mind goes like, "Oh God, what should I tell them?" Okay, because there's like so many layers to my story, man. So yeah, I grew up in the inner city in LA. During that time, it was more so about like discovering myself and what I really wanted for myself. Because back then, like I would say, I grew up with the mindset of scarcity because my parents were raising five children, and I wanted nice things, but I couldn't have it. And growing up, I'm not sure how old you are. You could be any age, but growing up in the
35.
'90s. Okay, yeah. So you know what it is.
Well, I'm not. I
So
was born in '89. I'm not 89 years old.
oh yeah. But you say you're 35, right?
Yeah, 35.
Yeah, so growing up in the '90s, early 2000s, it was about materialism. Who had the nicest stuff, the nicest shoes, the nicest clothes, and things like that. And one thing that I've wanted was nice things as well. So I started selling candy in school to my classmates and things like that because one thing that I've noticed is that, man, if I could do it, in any kind of way to help myself from being teased or from wearing fake gear or for not looking cool, I'm gonna make it happen. So I started my own candy business, and man, I was actually quite surprised about at how much money I was making. When I think back, I was making like $150 a week at 12 years old. And
Right,
back then, that was quite a bit of money, and I was so invested in it. It was like I wasn't getting high on my own supply.
right.
Like I wasn't eating any of my candy. I was like, man, if this could make me money, I could actually, I need to go ahead and sell it.
Hmm.
And yeah, from there, man, I just was just like so into developing myself because I felt like if I wanted anything, the only person I could depend on is me. I didn't have the parents that you could talk to and ask them, could I have Jordans or could I have this or could I have that? My dad always said no. I don't say no to my children as much as he said no to me because
Right.
I'm like, I'm trying to instill a work ethic in them where it's like, if you at least perform in school, I'm gonna reward you, or if you, act well, you can get rewarded. But it was like, man, no matter what it was no. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, so like yeah, but I also feel like to each his own, like just because somebody grew up with that type of structure doesn't mean that it's gonna, anybody's gonna be super ambitious or want better for themselves or anything like that. I
Right.
feel like that was just so like embedded in me ever since I was a child, where it was like, man, I want more, I can get more. Everyone around me, isn't trying to be better like me or,
Hmm.
develop themselves into better people, but I was. And so I had to basically do that journey on my own. It was like it was lonely, but I would go to Barnes and Nobles and
Yeah.
see self-help books and be like, whoa, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. Because one thing I did know and that I was gifted to know
Mhm.
early on as a teenager was if I wanted different, I had to change my mindset and how I thought about myself.
So what would you say is the thing that kept you because most of the time you hear, and even for myself, you hear
Mhm.
a sports team is what kept you productive. You hear maybe some talent, maybe being an artist. What do you think it was that kept you from going down the path of doing illegal activity or getting into too many gangs or doing things that you knew weren't going to land you in the right spot or land you in prison and things like that?
Well, growing up next door
Hmm.
was a guy who was in and out of prison. Like he was, it was our next door neighbor. He was a big homie. He would tell us stories about prison and things
Right,
like that. And I was like, no, I don't think I want to do anything to go there. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like there was nothing about, possibly putting myself in prison that made me want to say, okay, I want to do this. But then,
Hmm.
I didn't think I was invincible because somebody that I knew and that I cared about was going back and forth to prison. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So to me, it was like real. It was like if you do bad, you can go to jail.
Right.
And from his story, no one, around me ever went to prison because it was like, nah, bro, don't think you're above the program. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it was like, I'm not trying to be in. I mean, even though he taught us how to survive, just in case we did go to prison, what to do and what not to do. Unfortunately, because it's always expected in any inner city for a black man to possibly go to jail one day. So
Hmm.
you have to learn the ethics, but I've never spent a day, thank God.
Right.
And just hearing that, like, man, I ain't trying to do I ain't no women in there. I can't get no money. I'm not
Right.
trying to eat any nasty food,
Mhm.
and when you're hearing from somebody that went through it how it is, it's real to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was one thing. But then also my family being affiliated with the Nation of Islam provided me a sense of knowledge of self that made me not even want to entertain any of that.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of things that I want to make sure I re-emphasize for you listeners as we're going about this. How important it is to tell your story, whether it's a pretty story or whether it's a really, really fucked up story. When it comes to these people that spoke to you about their time in prison, essentially you could look at them as folks that kind of saved your life and built principles because they put it in your head. I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. Even though you just said it, it was so easy for you to go down that road. You're saying, look, I'm going to Barnes and Noble and getting my head right. I'm going somewhere in which I know I'm going to be doing something productive. And what gets me, what's actually even more impressive, and I didn't even know this about you, is that you were serious about your candy selling business. And
Yeah.
when it comes to the work you're doing now with Militant Grind, with your merch, I'm sure you take that same philosophy that you had at 12 years old. It's just now it's your product, it's your stuff, and you can apply
Yeah.
the same principles. And it's very, very important. Again, I want to make sure I'm clear on the record saying this. Tell your story as often as you possibly can because the young people are listening and you can be saving lives simply by keeping it as graphic as possible, keeping it as raw as possible, and keeping it to the point where you can, if you have to scare a child because the statistics that he's talking about when it comes to us young black men who are in the inner city who end up in prison, they're staggering. And it's not
Yeah.
just South Central LA. It's everywhere. I lived north, I lived south now. It's everywhere. And somebody got to stop it. Somebody and reading books. And because you're a big Malcolm, I know you're a huge admirer of Malcolm X, but it was
Mhm.
in I'm gonna say the autobiography of Malcolm X with Alex Walker. He
No,
talked
Alex Haley.
Alex Haley, yeah, I'm tripping.
Yeah.
Who was Alex Walker? Anyway, but I remember, yeah, I remember reading that book, and it was when Malcolm X or when Alex Haley was describing Malcolm X's time in prison when he was
Mhm.
talking about how a man's life changes from just one book. And let me tell you, it was like the words were jumping out at me because I was going through some stuff and I didn't even actually become a reader until after I was through with school. So, with that, when it came time for you to start making that transition into adulthood, you're 12 years old, you're doing your thing, you're kind of developing.
Mhm.
When you get to 18 and it's time to kind of start to transition into some real adult decisions, how did that transition go for you?
Man, it was pretty cool. I read Malcolm X at 16 while I was going to Crenshaw High School, right? And I was just addicted to it, man. Like I would finish my work early, bring out my book and start reading, because it was just so impactful for what I had to deal with growing up in the world, back in those times, man, because we did have to suffer from racism, we did have to suffer from injustice, and also dealing with our own people, and like the rap group Public Enemy, like we really are public enemies in society,
Mm-hmm.
and that fucks with you. I'm not sure if you could curse, but
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. You can. It's
yeah,
fine. I
that
think I actually
fucks
dropped one
with
earlier.
you. You know what I'm saying? Like horribly. And I feel like, I was talking to one of my childhood friends today. He just got his doctorate. We grew up on the corner around the corner from each other, and we were just talking about how hectic it was, growing up in the city. But then it was like it became a norm. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But the way I shift the perspective from it being a norm, because he has two sons, I have two sons, right? And it's just like this. Can you imagine your two sons having to deal with the stuff that we've dealt with, or having the friends that we've had growing up? You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Like being buddies with somebody, you friends, blah, 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 cool. Next thing you know, that friend murdered somebody. And when they were like 15, 16 years old, and they're serving juvenile life. But
Hmm.
y'all were friends though, close. Now
Right.
it's like, can you imagine your son having a friend that possibly committed murder as a teenager? And he's like, hell no. Oh God.
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
this is the stuff that we've had to deal with that we thought
Right.
was normal, but it
Right.
really isn't. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And
Right.
so, back then it was just like a constant fight, bro. Like I was, I dealt with a lot of mental abuse from my household, negativity. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? It was just like, damn, who do I run to? Where do I go? Like I have to get out. And that's when I moved to Atlanta. Thank God. That was probably the best thing I've ever did for
And this
myself. I
was
was
when you were
19.
18,
19. So when I
19?
was
Okay.
19, it was just like, after some guys pulled up on our block, drew down on us, asked us where we was from. I'm talking about in the minivan,
Oh my God.
slid the door open, boom, drew down, boom.
Hmm.
And we could have died that day because
Right.
that same gang that pulled up on my block actually killed people, you know what I'm saying, in the
Right.
neighborhood. So that was divine intervention for sure. But it was just like, man, I'm tired of this, bro. It's like it's too much going on. I want better for myself. And that's when I was like, one of my friends was going to Morehouse at the time. And I was like, man, maybe we could be roommates and I could just live in Atlanta. And the rent was pretty cheap. It was like $750 a month for a townhouse.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the hood, but that was lovely back then.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's when I did it because I just I was like, I have to get out of here somehow, some way. And we came up with the idea. Our parents were with it. And I moved out there, went to a junior college, and then I ended up going to Morehouse. But then one thing that I feel like that really helped me during that journey was me having a lot of time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like damn near going to prison because, during the summer, nobody was out there but me. You know what I'm saying? I had no family out there, friends are gone,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So I was just in my apartment by myself, surviving off of $10 a day, going to a fish spot around the corner, ordering the meal,
Right.
I would eat one time a day because that's all I had. And it was intense, man. But at the end of the day, I knew how to deal with myself.
Right. And I think it is important that it does get mentioned that you had to get out of there. You had to, even though you might have felt isolated in Atlanta, it
Yeah.
probably was, like you said, the best thing that could have happened to you because you saw where things were going. You saw the direction where things were going. So you could be in your apartment eating their fish for $10 a day and say, look, I'd rather do this than go, be pulled up on and, go through what I was going through at home. So it's, again, I do want to make sure we emphasize as listeners, sometimes loneliness is necessary. So not sometimes, and very many times, there's
All
going
right.
to have to be a period in your life where you got to really get to know yourself, get to know what it is you want, and you got to be in that state of mind where this is how I don't want to be a victim of my circumstances. And that takes isolating yourself. That takes moving yourself out of a situation in which it's not going to be, you're not going to get the desirable outcome because your surroundings are everything. So when you're in Atlanta, how did I believe is it the mortgage business that you got into initially, or how
Yeah.
how did it
Yeah. Well, I
that
started the
start to
mortgage
happen?
business when I was actually in LA. And then it was just like, man, that's always gonna be here. You need to get education. And then I went to Atlanta. I got a job in the summer doing it. And
Mm.
then like after college, I did it too. So I was like in and out, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it was just like I know I could do better for myself if I just remain in school, you know, because I was definitely doing good things, but then it was just like, I mean, this is cool, but what about the future, you know?
Mm.
But then also want to reflect on what you said, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, like me actually choosing to be in isolation because I have a theory that is more than likely true, but if I chose not to come to Atlanta, go to Atlanta, I probably would be dead right now. You know, like it
Oh,
was three of us, two of us ended up moving to Atlanta. One guy stayed in LA and we were all friends. And the one guy that stayed in LA is now paralyzed from the neck down,
oh my God.
you know, from getting shot in the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is very unfortunate. But I often think like, man, what if he would have moved to Atlanta with us? You know, more than likely he wouldn't be in that position. He's still alive, and he actually got shot in 2007. So it's been years, you know, but it was just like, damn, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's like that's how real it is. And you know, like you said, we got to start sharing our stories and, you know, keeping it real. You know what I mean? But it's just like, wow, man. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about it,
It is.
because when I visited LA during the summertime, and it was like, you know, my mom was like, okay, why are you leaving so early? I was like, I don't know, I just got to leave. And then
Hmm.
a couple days later, you know, I got the call that he got shot and he's on life support. And it like messed me up, man, where I was crying so much at work where I had to go home.
Hmm.
You know, it was bad because I was one of he's still my close friend. We still text and, you know, stuff like that. And I still hear from him, but it's just like, you know, it's just you know, we thought his life was gonna be over, but he
Right.
survived. But it's still not the same. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I resonate quite a bit just because when you, I mean, is there, and then I guess I'll ask you, is there a survivor's remorse with you? Like, because you could have been that guy, like you just said, but there
Yeah,
was something pulling you out. And
yeah,
sometimes there could be situations where maybe you feel like that could, like, what are you doing right? What do how do you mentally process that? Because I could only imagine how it, especially when you're looking at your boys and you're doing well and your business is thriving and you made it. Well, I hate the term made it, but you're one of those people where from the outside looking in, they'll look at you and, oh, he's the one that made it or something like that. How are
yeah.
you able to process all the things that you could have been through and still like look at your boys in the eye and be a great father, be a great businessman, and manage all that? Because it's a lot of heavy shit.
I mean, man, at the end of the day, I will say it still hurts, you
Mm-hmm.
know, just due to the fact that other people could say, "Oh yeah, this is my friend. I grew up with them." Blah blah blah. But when you come, I feel like the hardest part for us is that we have to cut off so many people that we were close to, that we love, that we shared food with, and stuff like that. That spent the night over our house.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because of the decisions that they ended up making, and you making the decision to want better for yourself and for your life, you know? Like
Yeah.
and like, you know, it hurts. Like I used to cry on my birthday, you know, like I just felt like, damn man, you know, just so much. And I used to just cry by myself.
Right.
Like, man, it's my birthday. I made it. You know, other people are dying and stuff like that. And yeah, bro, you know, I'm not gonna lie, you do feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's like you really you really wish to live a life where you could just, you know, talk about people that grew up next door to you and say good things, you know, like, yeah, we grew up together, we've been friends since such and such. But it's like so many of my friends ended up choosing a different life. Well, not a lot of them, but like let's just say some of them, where it was just kind of like, damn, man, like, you know, you used to spend the night at my house and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm looking at you online and you got shot in the face because you were selling drugs or whatever the hell you was doing. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, damn, you know what I mean? But it's for me, you know, I feel like it has to be that way. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like I can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out anymore. You know what I mean?
and you bring up a very important subject and important topic when you're talking about. I don't even want to use the term black success. I'm going to use the term minority success because there are other minorities who, as you grow and as you build and as you want to do great things, it's set up for you to be cut off from your family. All right.
Oh
People
yeah.
who are majorities, they have generations upon generations. So I was blessed enough to go to a private. I started out at a predominantly black and Latino school, and I was recruited to a private high school that was predominantly white. And I remember my
Mhm.
mother would always tell me, she goes, "Look, Aswan, those people you go into school with, they have generational wealth. They have
Right,
generational
right, right.
money coming in, and you don't have that. You can't pretend like you're one of them. At some,
Right.
you're going to have to be the token black guy. You're going to have to be the black guy that actually can stand on his own 2 feet. And let's just say, be 100% honest, you're going to have to be 10 times better at your job because of your color of your skin and because of your gender. And you just got to eat it. You got to accept it. And that's the point I want to get across to as many people as I possibly can is that this shit takes all of us. It is not about pointing to President Obama and say, okay, that's the guy that made it. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
do whatever it is I gotta do and fuck off or whatever. You are just as responsible as the next man to make our society a better, to do your part. You're not going to change the world by yourself. We get it. You're not,
Right.
nobody is going to be perfect, but you can do your part and you can do a damn good job at doing your part. And, with all that, I do want to make sure we get into your transition to how you became so heavily involved in fitness. I'm a fitness guy myself. When did you get into fitness? And then the name, Militant Grind. That name hits a the name Militant Grind. So say what you guys say, but make sure let's make sure we get that in a little bit because I'm curious
Yeah.
about how the story of you gotten into fitness, and I heard you talk about earlier about how you don't mess around with your meals, you put the right shit in your body, organic, all
Yeah.
that stuff. So the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, honestly, that was like in high school, I would say.
Right.
Like I always wanted to be strong, but then
Mhm.
growing up in the city around game banging and stuff like that, you
Mhm.
want to have some size on you because you might have to fight. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so and so that was one. And also had weight training in the ninth grade, 10th grade. And I
Mhm.
was just always fascinated about just being strong. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
And grow up like, being a 90s kid again, you look at wrestling, you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
our action heroes were big dudes, you know what I'm saying? And like, well, it was like you wanted to be masculine, you wanted to be strong. And so I was influenced by that. And I actually wrote that in my book when it
Mhm.
came to strength. It was like, man, looking at Arnold, looking at, Sylvester Stallone, all of these different wrestlers, all these guys, it was cool to be strong back then.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so that was one of them, and I just kept that up. But then I've also equated that to health as well. Like you also want to be the healthiest, and fitness is not just about looking a certain kind of way.
Mhm.
It's also like, no, you need to exercise because you are a human being that has to operate.
Yeah.
Like you need to do some type of movement. It's not just sitting at a computer all day
Right.
typing. That sounds good, but in order for you to be agile, to move, to do what you got to do, you have to have some type of fitness regimen or some type of physical activity in your life.
Right.
And that's how I look at it.
And
You
it
know,
also it also helps with the mental health aspect of it. When
yeah.
one of I run every single morning, and I tell people all the time it's my form of meditation. It's the way I process a lot of the bullshit that I just had to hear over the years. The being
Yeah.
making fun of my name, the being the token black, all that shit gets processed in my run. So when I show up in the world to do my work, I don't walk around with that victim mentality. You would never know that a lot of shit bothers me because I can get it all out.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because I had a time while I was working out and I looked at myself in the mirror. Like, it's funny if you ever like, look at yourself in the mirror, but just like how your face is and how you look at that moment. Like sometimes you'll open the phone and there'll be a selfie. You be like, oh, why am I looking like that? You know what I'm saying? But I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, whoa, you look crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because like I psych myself out and I put myself in a type of aggressive zone where
Yeah,
it's like, oh, no wonder people don't really look at me and look at me like, oh shit, I ain't fucking with him. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I really zone out, but that's where I can like let out so much aggression. You know
Uh-huh.
what I'm saying? Because I'm aggressive by nature. Like I can't hide that. So I have to do something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like if I don't work out, I feel like my mind would be off. My body will feel different. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, I'm not feeling sore. I've been feeling this way for years,
Hmm.
but something's not right. Like, come on,
Right.
man, we got to do something. And
Right.
during the pandemic, it was so intense. Where I would like get the couch and I'll start doing like curls with the couch. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I got to do
Oh
something,
man,
push
yeah, that
ups.
cabin fever, right?
Yeah, like I was going crazy, man. Then I
Right.
got these dumbbells for my birthday. I fell in love with that.
Uh-huh.
Then I found a gym. I was like, oh yeah. But then it was just like, like you waking up and running every day. Like sometimes you have to really dig deep in yourself and be like, why can't you be consistent with this?
Right.
Why can't you what's going on with you, man?
Hmm.
Like you need to be consistent for once in your life because a lot of times I'll be on and off. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? It's like, oh man, okay, I work, and I was always fit. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
it was like, what if you just really stayed with it for a long time? Like, how do you think you would look if you
Right.
just super consistent with it and really like dedicated yourself to doing the right thing
Right.
instead of being good enough and just saying, well, I look better than most people, you know what I'm saying? Or, well, at least I'm doing something. But then also learn that it's not just going to the gym, is what you do in the gym.
Hmm.
It's how you push yourself forward in the gym. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it was like, oh man, I really have to, get with it. And I feel like I really was influenced working out with a bodybuilder, my friend Lewis, who
Hmm.
uh who actually wasn't in prison for 5 years, you know what I'm saying? And working
This
out with
was in
him, it was like,
Atlanta or in when you were back in Cali.
I was back out here in LA. No, my
Okay,
bad.
so
I
you,
skipped
you
like
moved back. Yeah,
20 years.
you moved back to Cali after Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah. I moved back to Cali after Atlanta, but it was just kind of like, dealing with him and seeing how focused and dedicated he was because for him, it was like he learned that regimen in prison and it
Hmm.
was like life or death for him. So he had to work out. It was
Hmm.
like, man, if you don't do this, you might fuck around, not go home.
Yeah.
So he trained like his life depended on. I was like, man, what if I implement that as well?
Mm.
Instead of going in there just like, oh, okay, I'm just moving. I'm just like, nah, you have to push yourself.
Right.
You have to add more weight. You have to do more. You have to really psych yourself out. Where it's like some people don't understand why I don't want to work out with them, or like they be like, "Yeah,
Hey,
man,
you gotta
let's
do
go."
it
I'm like,
casually.
you said what?
You gotta do it casually.
Yeah, it's like one time somebody was like, yeah, man, working that's like a social thing. I was like, it's not social for me, bro. Like, I will fucking break you in there. Like I like I've already been training with the
Right.
with the best. You know what I'm saying? I tell people I'm like, because I show them a picture of the people that I work out with, right? And I'll be like, look at this person. How serious do you think they have to be? You know what I'm saying? And if I'm working out with them, I'm gonna at least get close to it or just like it. You know what I mean? So yeah, man,
You
it's
ever get
like,
to a point where you're like competing in like triathlons or like 5Ks,
yeah.
anything like that?
I did the Spartan race before. I didn't
Did
compete,
it
but I
Spartan
do
race? Right.
Spartan races. Yeah, I did that. And that was just like something that I had to do to really like get my mind mentally tough. You know what I'm saying? Cause it's like you're doing I hate like David Goggins says, like he
Yeah,
hates running. Like I absolutely hate running. Hate it.
really.
But I will still do the Spartan race. You know what I mean? I don't care if I'm one of the last people, whatever, I'm still doing it you
Yeah,
know. And I see people in there, they run past me.
right.
Excuse me, you know what I'm saying? Like they take
You're
it
not
super
stopping,
serious.
but you're not stopping.
Yeah, but I'm not stopping. Like if I gotta walk, if
Right.
I gotta do whatever, it's like, okay, I'm challenging myself. Like this is not my fucking thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like if y'all want to hit the like say when it comes to like say we have this one course, right?
Hmm.
Where we have to pull the rope and pull this
Yeah.
bag up the rope, right? No,
Mhm.
how can I explain it? So there's a rope, and on the other side, there's a bag. There's a bag tied to the rope. You
Mhm.
have to pull the rope and pull the bag up,
I
right?
know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there were guys.
I didn't do it, but I was a spectator at this mud girl run, and they did that. The sleds, and they pulled it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, there was guys here struggling, some
Mhm.
using their body weight like this, pulling it up. Me, I get there, boom, 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 done. And the guy that's like, on the mic, he's looking like, what the hell?
Mhm.
Like, but that was my thing. You know what I'm
That was
saying? I
yeah,
was
that was
like,
your thing. So you
yeah,
right.
that was my thing. So I knocked that out. I got the sandbags on my back.
Hmm.
I was doing that. And one of the guys I was helping host the event, he was like, he commented on my post on Facebook and was like, yeah, bro, I seen you. Like, you really did that.
Hmm.
Because people give up, people drop the bags, people do this. But I was like, but then it has you think like, man, just because you lack strength in certain areas, like me running, doesn't mean that you don't have value in other things. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Because it's like they can run past me, but when it came to picking up that weight, now okay, cool, that's my thing. I could do that. I could run with things on my back and pull weight and things like that. So, and that's just ways where you have to like really challenge your mind and put yourself in positions to like, just to prove to yourself that you could do something that you don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah, I didn't actually become a runner until after I was through playing football because I
Mhm.
needed a lot of everything. I needed to be around teams. I needed to compete. I needed to be in 5Ks, 10Ks. I'm training
Yeah.
full marathon now. Like I needed to be in that where I'm pushing myself because when I put my books out, when I put my intellectual property or when I started my business, I have to match my actions have got to match my words. Okay,
Right.
will not sell shit if you're not actually doing the stuff that you put in your books or that you put into your intellectual property. People will smell it on you. They'll smell you're phony, and you will do more harm than good to whatever it is you're trying to do. You got to live it if you plan on selling it, and that's what kind of leads me into the next thing I want to talk to you about is where along this spectrum did militant it's militant grind,
Yeah, I
correct?
got you.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that
So,
where did that happened in the books and all the stuff you're doing now.
So basically, I started the Spartan races. I think my first one was 2018, and just being a fan of all of this stuff, and I was like, I want to create a personal brand because I've always been outspoken on Facebook, giving
Yeah.
advice and things like that. But then it was just like I want to create a brand that more so resonates with me. You know what I'm saying? And when you really think about it, somebody that grew up in the inner city who read Malcolm X, who
Hmm.
families was heavily influenced by the Nation of Islam. That works out. That does all of these things. This is perfect leading up to it, right?
Right.
Coming up with the name is like, man, what really resonates with me at my core? And that's when militant grind came up because it's like I grew up militant, but then I'm also grinding, as a businessman or whatever. So
Right.
it's like, militant grind. And I feel like you could apply that to so many areas and avenues in your life. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? Like, and when I was on social media too much, my boy hit me. He was like, hey, Sherm, get off social media and get on your militant grind. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, you know what? You're right.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
He told
But
you to get off social media?
yeah, it's funny because, you can waste time on social media.
You absolutely can. Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, honestly, this might sound counterproductive, but I I took down my Instagram and I took down my Facebook, and people are hitting me up like, "Hey man, what happened?" But it's more so like I have to create it differently now. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It's like I wouldn't mind having it, but I cannot be the one operating it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I just want to produce and then y'all could push it. You could I don't want to log on. I don't want to see any of that stuff that's on there.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I'm saying?
that's what I'm actually working towards myself. I had a previous guest on who, and he serves the name of his brand is called Sharpening the Spare Coaching. So it's kind of a similar concept. But he was
Yeah.
actually saying that he doesn't even look for social people on social media for his clients anymore. He wants to be found on Google or find people via Google because that's the main search engine. And all the social media stuff, you get caught up in all the traffic and all the bullshit that's already on there. So
Yeah.
it is important when your brand starts to actually become who you are and it stops being
Yeah.
recreational leisure activity and it actually
Mhm.
becomes like this is actually a part of me. uh
Right.
you start to say, look, social media likes, and I mean, and the majority of people on there anyway, they're freeloaders. They're gonna comment.
Yeah.
If you charge money to be on Facebook, they're not gonna have that many users. If you charge money to be on Instagram, it's not gonna have many users. So if you're
Right.
serious about your business, then you should try to be discoverable via Google and via the things that people actually pay for. So,
Yeah, exactly, man. Because it was like, and that's what I was thinking. Because my friend was like, "I really like your content, this,
mhm,
this, and the third." But I was like, I mean, I'm not here to entertain people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here to really be effective, and I feel like social media is more so about entertainment. And then I had a conversation with someone about it, and it's like, so say if I look at okay, Move Swiftly podcast, man, oh man, he had a good guest, Sherman, man,
mhm,
that was a good clip.
mhm.
Scroll up. Oh my God, look at those breasts. Oh my God, look at her butt. Oh, this. I'm not even thinking about you anymore.
That's what I'm saying. And at
You know what
least
I'm
I'm
saying?
glad you're
Like,
honest because that's exactly the way I would be. Like I stay off the explore page, and I'm in South Florida, so you put
yeah,
some Cuban women with bikinis. It's like I'm just as fan of self development, but I'm
yeah.
seeing that. I'm being
Come
real.
on, bro. It's like you have to be realistic. And I was
Right.
just like, you know what, man? I don't really think that it's like it just changed. It went from social network to social media.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And those are two different things, like networking and media. So it's like media, okay, you putting all this stuff out and blah, blah, blah. But then again, it's like you're competing with people that do what you would say unethical things, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, in order to get ahead or be fake or,
Exactly.
be phony. And it's like, well, if you don't have this, you must not be successful. Or if you don't have a Bugatti, or if you don't have,
Hmm.
roided out muscles, or if you have a little pudge on your stomach. And it
Hmm.
was like, bro, this is way too superficial for me.
Yeah.
Where it's like you want to compete naturally anyway in anything that you do. So it's like if you're a part of that realm, you're gonna more than likely, do some of those things in order to compete because you have to compete. But then
Right.
when I saw like the real side of it and like what people have to do, it was like, bro, I can't be that type of person. Like I'm not gonna do that.
How do you communicate that concept with your boys though? Because I look at the kids now and I teach, so I'm around the kids every day, and I
Yeah,
think about what a world with social media would have been like when I was a kid.
yeah,
Because I was the reserved kid, I was kind of the kid that was always the outsider looking in. And nowadays, it's probably worse because if you don't get a certain amount of likes, you don't have a certain amount of followers, people are
mhm,
automatically canceling you because of what they see on social media, and they're using social media to validate if they're going to be friends with you, if they're going to be acquainted with you or not. So how do
right.
you go about actually teaching that lesson to your boys?
Man, my boys are young, so I don't even have to go there yet. But if if they were a little older,
Uh-huh.
it would be more so just like appreciating real life,
Real
real
life, right?
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you don't need all of these people in order to feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that's one thing that I would like everybody to know because it's coercing even like adults, grown-ups, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Where it's like, you see a granny on there in tights with her big behind cooking food, and I'm like, damn, they even got the grannies now? You know what I'm saying? Like what is going on? It's like
Oh
I'm
man, yeah.
70 and I'm still fine. And, I'm like, and you could just see all of these people competing for attention or competing for love. And it's
Uh-huh.
just like, oh man, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
just like a whole bunch of vanity, man. And,
Mm-hmm.
I tell, I'm to a point where I tell people, I'm like, man, if you really want to talk to me, my numbers ain't changed in over, 14 years. So you
Right.
could just call me. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like first I kind of like well, first I'm gonna talk about the power of choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we were growing up, there was no such thing as social media, but we had cell phones, yes. But the
Mm-hmm.
cell phones were like,
The flip
hey man, where you at?
I had the flip phone. I didn't even texting. I didn't really do that much of like that.
Yeah, but phones were more so just to say, where you at? All right, I'm about
Exactly.
to
Right.
pull up.
Mm-hmm.
Or you talking to your girl because she's at home and y'all, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like phones was like a part of your everyday life. It was more so like, hey, where you at? You at home? Okay, I'm about to pull up.
It
Click. You know what I'm saying? And I
was.
was just like, man, I missed the way that you. And then I thought about it. I was like, I mean, you have a choice not to deal with social media
Mm-hmm.
in a way. Like you could distance yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you could really make your life in that kind of way. Like nobody is stopping you from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, I'm off social media for a few weeks, and the people that have contacted me, I was just like, wow, they really checking on me. Like, hey, Sherman, I ain't see you on, bro. What's up? Oh,
Mhm.
those are the people I need to deal with.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because a
Yeah.
lot of times you just get, a whole bunch of stuff and you know what I'm saying? It's like it's meaningless conversations, meaningless this, people asking you for advice for free, people acting like they about to join your program and not. It's like, man, I don't have time for this stuff, bro. Like this is
Get
serious for me.
frustrating. Yeah, it can get frustrating. So but it is. I will say that it is. It's necessary to at least acknowledge it, so
Yeah.
you understand, like you said, the psychographics of some people, like the people that actually like your stuff. Like, let's say I mean, I'd be lucky when I post. I'd be lucky to get maybe a like on some of my posts, but the few likes that I do get, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to train her. Oh yeah, that was someone that I knew, and I know exactly why she's liking this specific thing. And that helped me develop and figure out who my ideal client is or my ideal customer is. So with that, I want
Yeah.
to kind of give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about who would be an ideal customer for you or an ideal client, people that you would want to work with to help build your brand.
Um, Man, that is like so vague because I have so many people that I could work with, but I feel like I really resonate with men of all kinds of races, cultures, backgrounds, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Some it's crazy because I wouldn't even think that I would be dealing with conservative white men,
Hmm.
but they love me. You know what I mean? But it's like, but I feel like it's
You'd
it's
be surprised.
really,
Yeah, you'd
yeah,
be
you
surprised.
really
They
would
want
be surprised,
real
bro.
conversation. Right, right. They want real
Yeah, like I have
individuals.
a family, I'm doing what I gotta do. I have strong beliefs, strong morals, strong ethics. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And that really isn't something that's as divisive. Like anyone could have that and you could relate to the majority of people, but I feel like the little knickknacks that separate us aren't even really that serious.
Right.
I had a conversation with a gay man who was like, he said he has 2 kids and he didn't have sex with a woman. Like that's how gay he is. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? He was, I'm gay, this. And I told him, I was like, I mean, to be real, I just don't like when it comes to this whole LGBTQ movement, I'm like, I just don't understand why people will put their sexuality at the forefront of their being.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? No, I told him that. I'm like, I mean, you could be gay. That's just a sexual preference. But you might like apple pies and I like apple pies. Or you
Mm-hmm.
might like these type of cars and I like these type of cars. Like
Right.
there's more to you than your
Yes.
sexuality. There's
Right.
more to you than your race. There's more to you than these, identifiers that we try to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And so it's just kind of like, I'm like, man, honestly, you could resonate with anybody and everybody from all walks of life as long as you remain authentic and true to you. You have no idea. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like there's some people that I'll be like, man, but hey, they like mindset stuff. They like this, they like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when it comes to my ideal client, I mean, the first thing I thought is like young black men, but then it was just like, nah, man, I don't have to limit myself to that. I also have
Right.
white men. I did a podcast with a 50-year-old white man that hosted it that, from Oregon, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
that hosted my podcast and we had a deep conversation. But you would think like, what is this young black dude from the inner city talking to a 50-year-old white man from Oregon? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why when it comes to that, I'm kind of like, damn, I really don't know. You know what I mean? It's like
But
whoever
what is
resonates with me,
yeah, the thing, but
resonates with me.
I might help you out with this question. What would be
Yeah.
the journey that you take them on? Do they come into your world, they buy a book, and then is there a program that you have? Are there offerings? Is there a coaching program that you put people through? How do they if someone's listening now and they're like, man, I like what this guy's saying, what's kind of the process in order to work with you?
It'll be like a counseling session, and I
Yeah.
would basically say, okay, what is really needed, and going from there. I feel like everything is a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have like a consultant, section of the website, talk, feel you out, okay, let's see what you need. But right now I'm moving towards like business development because that's something that I've always done,
Right, because
working with
you're in the
businesses and
or
stuff
are
like
you
that.
still in the mortgage business or?
No, 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 no. I got my project management
Yeah,
certification.
right.
I have like all kinds of things, but I've always just like been a creative entrepreneur and
Mm-hmm.
like business development, right? But then it was like when it comes to me coaching people, more than likely they need help with their business or something of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm creating a program where I'm actually like helping business owners, but giving them tangible things that they could actually use for their business, like a CRM system, business
Yeah.
credit,
Right.
business trade lines. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
You
Like,
know,
learning how to operate business really in order to be profitable, getting business loans, things of that sort, things that I've like helped people with in general anyway. You know what I'm
right.
saying? But I kind of like what was kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth when it came to the whole coaching industry period is that people just expect like all of this money just for advice or just for learning how to do that. And I'm just like, bro, I'm not paying you $10,000 for you to give me a PDF. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? Are you crazy? Like,
I hire a coach myself, and we have meetings every 2 weeks where we're having a conversation just like this, where you bring your questions, and that's to me that's real coaching. The coaching offers, and there's been a ton of people that have come on this very show that have
mhm,
talked about how they've been burnt by exactly what you just said in terms of
yeah,
they paid their $5,000, they got some PDF, they got some sugar rush speech or some module, and they were very regretful in the fact that, I mean, they were regretful at what they paid for, but they were happy that they were willing to spend the money on themselves, and that's
yeah.
actually an important aspect to it too.
Yeah, and so it's like me being a customer of some of them, and
Hmm.
me being like, "What? Hold on, bro, what is going on?" Because you want to start, the coaching business, and the only way you're going to learn is
Hmm.
by seeing how the coaching business operates, right? And
Exactly.
so usually, like I have my own podcast, and there's a coach that refers people to the podcast platform that I use, right? And so after I asked them, I'm like, would you refer that coaching program to anybody else and your loved ones? They always said no.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? But then it's like, why are they cool with paying it, but then they'll say they won't refer it to anyone? And
Right.
it's crazy. And but then it's like you said, like they're not really like, I need my money back. I'm gonna expose. It's not none of that, but it's more so like, man, I paid my money, didn't really get, hey man, it is what it is. But I'm more so like, no, I want to create a program where it's like I'm giving you tools that could actually be useful for your business or
Hmm.
whatever you want to do. I'm not just like hyping you up, sending you a couple PDFs and be like, go ahead, I gave you the formula, work hard.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, no, I'm not. Me personally, I'm not doing that. But I do know that's how it is. Well, I'm like, no, I need tangibles for these people. Like, if you come to me, you're gonna get a business trade line or your business report that's gonna report to Duns and Bradstreet, so you could possibly be able to, get 150,000 to 250,000 for your business,
Mhm.
along with mindset coaching, along with this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's like if I'm gonna charge high ticket or mid ticket, I would want people to be satisfied,
Right.
and that's more so like where I'm coming at. Like, and I actually, I was like, okay, I'm gonna use these platforms, I'm gonna use this. I'm like, no, you know what? No, I need to create all of this stuff in house and
Mhm.
basically be like, okay, Sherman, you've always helped people make money at the end of the day. That's what you did. That's how you've been successful, period. So
Right.
figure out how you can help people make money and then go from there. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what I have to do, and that's what I'm working on right now.
Mhm.
But then it's like, if someone comes to me, hey, I'm trying to get 30,000 back on my taxes through this COVID relief program. Can you help me? Yes, I can help you.
Right.
Help people get $100,000 in credit, all kind of stuff. Help people buy houses, well, multi-unit homes, all of that. And then I started to think like, I mean, even though that's easy for me, people really can't figure that out. Just because you've been working on it, for years doesn't mean that it's simple. So I'm like, maybe I could just get the knowledge that I've accumulated, create a program, but then just like, hey man, you also need to work out too. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You also need to make sure you're healthy and just create a program on bettering people's lives and give them something tangible. Make sure they leave with something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I'm really creating now.
Right. Now, is there and this is again for anybody that maybe listen, is there like the possibility of there being brand partners with you? because I know a lot of people that are in the fitness industry, they may partner with maybe, let's say, a Gatorade, or partner with some sort of an insurance company or
Uh-huh.
something that will make it so you're kind of seeing a win-win deal with another company so you guys can create that service.
Yeah, I did that before. Yeah, for
Oh, you have done
sure.
it before. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, not like brand sponsorships or collabs, definitely. But it just has to be aligned
Hmm.
with my purpose. Like, to be all the way honest, I partner with the weed company called American Weed Company.
Hmm.
At first I was just like, man, you're gonna involve yourself with weed? Oh
Right.
hell no. Nah, man, you can't do that. But then I looked at their purpose statement. They said that they wanted to use weed to to basically help combat soldier suicide.
Wow.
So it's like, oh damn, that's their purpose.
Hmm.
That's why they're trying to pass legislator and all of these different things.
Right.
I talk to a lot of veterans,
Hmm.
on my podcast. Your podcast is called Militant Grind. Matter of fact, yes, you can partner with them. Yeah, you can be affiliated with their brand. That
Right.
makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because
Uh-huh.
it's like, I mean, if they're selling pharmaceuticals and things for mental health, and you talk about mental health, why can't we be used for their mental health to help them, lower their depression and things like that,
Right.
and not an over the counter type drug. So I was like, you know what, that makes sense.
Hmm.
I could rock with that.
Yeah, see, I've never been a weed smoker, but as I've been around athletics my whole life, and actually, I think it's all the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. They brought up
Hmm.
a very strong point in terms of being a professional athlete, being pumped with opioids, being pumped with a bunch of legal drugs that, if it's used responsibly,
Yeah.
sometimes it can be helpful. But I think it's gotten such a bad rap because so many people use it irresponsibly. They use it just for recreational purposes as opposed to it actually being something that can help. But it's a drug. It's something that some people could be using to heal, or some people could be using the wrong.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much again a lot about how you use the things that we have out here, and it's just all mindset stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's what I had to come to terms with, because I grew up in an area where it's recreational, like
yeah, it's
nobody
it.
was like, man, I went to war and I killed all these people and I have nightmares and I have problems relaxing. Like, that's a whole
Mhm.
different
That's a
story, you know what I'm
that's a
saying?
different. Now it's become something that is actually, hey, I was
Yeah.
in
And then like
at a person for
me
doing
actually knowing a soldier
it. Hmm.
that committed suicide, it was like, oh shit, nah, this is real. One of
Right.
my uncle's friends committed suicide. And it was crazy because he had a son, and we bonded at a party that my uncle thrown for his daughter, and our kids were playing together. But
Jesus.
shit, after a year or two, I was the only father remaining because he took his own life.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So it was like when I was like, oh no, bro, this is nothing to really be
On the play
playing
with.
with. Like, this is
Right.
a real problem. And he was talking to me about the things he went through in the war, and he
Right.
was wearing glasses because a bomb or something and a metal hit him in his head. It's like that stuff is real.
And you can't forget that kind of shit though. Like when you
Yeah,
actually,
yo,
and there's been multiple people on here that have a military background, Navy SEAL background, and
yeah,
I'm sure when you hear them talk, there are things that go on in their head that I never even considered going to the military, but when you see what they go through, you're like, shit, that's a lot to
mhm,
wake up. That's a lot of heavy shit to wake up with every single morning. You're not
yeah,
getting seeing these things, and we got to be. I just wish we would get more empathetic as a culture, empathetic as a society, and because of the advancements, like you kind of alluded to with social media, it's so
mhm,
easy for us to get stuck in our own bubble. It's so easy for
yeah,
us to worry about our likes all day, worry about what we post all day, and we are forgetting that this is a huge world and there's a lot of pain going on, and you gotta do something, man. You gotta do something
yeah,
to help people and get out of your own shit because everybody got issues, everybody got something they got going on, and it gets so frustrating. One of the things that agitate me the most is just being around selfish people that can't see beyond their own 4 inches. So
yeah, yeah. Seriously, man, and it's like there's people that are disguising themselves to be empathetic towards others just because mental health and the self help space is pretty big right now.
exactly.
When they're really only in it for their own selfish gain.
Right.
It's pretty interesting because, like, even in the Bible, it says don't use this knowledge or wisdom for money, but people are actually using it for money. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, they're, it's like that's what it is. And sometimes when, when you have a high morale, it's kind of like, man, I don't want to take advantage of people. I actually want to, if somebody pays me money, I actually want them to feel like they got what they deserve. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've always been that type of person. Like, if you pay me, like, the thing is, I tell people, they be like, oh man, I want your help doing this. I'll send you the money today. I'm like, hold on, bro. Hold
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
Because as soon as you send me that money, I'm obligated to perform.
Right.
And I want to make sure I have time. Like, man, one guy was like, hey, Sherman, what's your cash at, man? Or he sent it to me. Like, I think he just found me and sent me the money. I was like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta stop everything and just do his taxes. He also do taxes too, and do
Yeah.
his taxes because he paid me. Like, as soon as that money dropped, I'm like, I gotta get this to him today. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because there's no way like you're gonna hit me up after paying me, a couple hundred. But hey man, what's up, bro? So where is he? What's going on? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And that's how like I keep my power. It's
Right.
like because as soon as because to me, as soon as somebody gives you energy, like money is energy to me, you have to like reciprocate that, or else they could really drag your energy, like they control
It's
your.
your reputation on the line at that point.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
it's like they could also say, "Hey, man, you owe me money. Where's my money at?"
Mm-hmm.
They could really hit you in all kind of ways, and it's just like, man, I don't want to deal with nobody hitting me up all the time. I don't want to deal with people saying that I scammed them or trying to take me to court and
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff. So whatever I do, I am going to perform, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a contract. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
now, like with the internet, it's kind of like the wild, wild west. You get, hey man, so for my coaching program, I made 80,000 last month. You
Mhm.
can too. I'm gonna teach you how. And the only way that person is really making that money is by doing deceitful things to people like that.
Right.
And I caught a lot of people doing that to people. It's like,
Right.
you never really even learned how to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling this person they could do, but then that person where you're saying they could do what you do, they don't have the wherewithal to even like do that. They can't make videos the way you do. They don't look the way you do. They don't have the charisma like you do. So you're trying to basically say they could be like you and pay you thousands of dollars for it. And you know damn well they can't do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's messed up.
Yeah, and it goes on a lot, especially in our thought leadership business. That's kind of the trade-off that you got to deal with when
Oh
you
yeah.
want to get in the game. And what you're bringing up, it re-emphasizes and it makes it even more important that you know your target. All right, and this is for you
Yeah.
listeners out there as well. Get really clued in on your target. Know your target to the point where you know exactly what their problem is every single day and fix their problem. Just like Sherm just said, even if it's something as simple as providing a CRM to every single accountant. Okay, that's
Right.
something specifically he knows he's been in that, or if it's a loan provider, whatever, somebody that does taxes. I have the best CRM. That's a specific thing that's going to help the person. And I've been there, I've used the product. And at that point, you could sell freely. You don't have to worry about somebody saying, oh, he sold me a bad CRM. And it does. No,
Right.
that's on you not using the CRM the right way,
Right.
because I specifically have used it. I've been in your shoes and I can tell it to everyone. There's some people it's working for, some people it's not working for. When you get to that place, folks, it's the sky. There's absolutely nothing that can stop you.
Yeah.
Only problem you're gonna have is where to invest all of your damn money, because you
Hmm.
will not stop selling and you know your system works. That's really important. And that's actually what comes with a commitment to self-development. You're not going to hit the home run off the first try. Trust me, you're going
Right.
to be burned. They're going to be people, like you said, throw you whatever amount of money and they're just like, yo, Sherm, fix my shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if
Right.
you're a person of high character, you're gonna be like, hey, thanks for the bread, but I you are in debt, you're in this. I can't fix when you have cars repossessed, you have this. I can't just fix your credit. I'm not a miracle worker because you threw me $100 and all of a sudden you want your credit fixed. And
Yeah, that's
you
why
gotta
that's
make
why I
that
didn't get in
decision.
the credit game, bro. Like I did my own credit, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not, hell no, I'm not getting into that, bro. To me, that's like a dirty game. Like,
Yeah,
because as soon as somebody pays you and you say, oh yeah, we could get it off, whoop, 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 and you do not get that stuff off,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You're gonna say, man, I'm gonna just keep trying. Because I pay people for my personal and they haven't did
uh-huh.
nothing. Now I'm like, man, bro, I hope nothing happened to them people, but boy, oh boy, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, because
It's the
nothing ever
reputation.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, it's like, so now,
gets around.
now our relationship is ruined. Now I'll never do business with you again,
Hmm.
and you just cut off a lifeline. You know what I'm saying? But for
Right.
me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do taxes and help people get money back on their taxes
Hmm.
or help them reduce what they owe. Oh,
Hmm.
the best business model ever. You can help people make money,
Hmm.
you can help people save money on their taxes. Then after, you do a good job, they'll refer you to other people.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I love that business. That's perfect for me. You're helping
Exactly.
and you're
Exactly.
doing exactly what you said you can do.
Hmm.
Nobody should have a problem. I had the same number for years.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not hard to find. So it's like those are the, like, you just want to do a business where you could be at peace and it's not just about
Yeah.
collecting money from people. And that's one thing I've learned. I was like, like say I'm not gonna say I did bad business with people, but I got into businesses and they failed and I didn't give people the right product or whatever. And I was
Hmm.
like, man, I'm just give you your money back. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And we're cool till this day. Like they already know, like,
Hmm.
yeah, it didn't work out, but he gave me my money back. All right, we cool. Because I tried to get into the Indian hair selling game. And I
Hmm.
was like, somebody sent me some bad hair. And next thing my homegirl tried to support me, but I had to give them their money back. They was like, nah, this ain't gonna work for me, player. And I did.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that happens in entrepreneurship. And again, if you are actually going to be in the business, this
Yeah.
is giving you the game. Something like that is going to happen. You got to be ready for it to happen if you're really in the business. You've really built for the game because the game
Yeah.
and for everyone. If you're going to be in it, you got to be willing to get burnt. And these kinds of things are going to happen. They're really just lessons. So,
Oh yeah, you gotta expect to get burned, as a matter of fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then there's ways you could protect yourself from getting burnt, like doing
hmm.
thorough investigations. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like maybe pulling up, meeting the people, going to their office.
Hmm.
Do a site visit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what you got to do. Make sure they have a reputation. Do your research for
Right.
sure.
Right.
But just know that it's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? But you just gotta provide the best thing that you can when it comes to it because people like all kind of companies get burnt,
Right.
multi-million dollar companies get burnt. Well,
Yeah,
I
right.
heard where it's like
Right.
people will say, like you'll buy a product, right? Well, people will buy a product from you and they'll say they never got it and report it on the credit card as fraud, and the
Hmm.
credit card take the money no matter what you say or do.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what people do that? Like, yeah, man, it's a dirty business. So we can't
A
even
lot of
take credit
scams
cards
happen.
no more. And I'm like,
Right.
dang, I'm thinking everybody is like me. No, that's not the
No,
case.
it's not
No,
gonna happen.
no. Somebody will say, oh, he didn't send it and you don't have the thing to back you up. Okay, nah, we're gonna do a chargeback.
Hmm.
Easy.
This is you got to be prepared out there. And I do want to be very respectful of your time, though, Sherman. Can you kind of just talk to me about how they can get in touch with you? I know you mentioned a website and where they can go if they want to hear more about what you're doing and a podcast. You got a lot going on, so feel feel free to plug away.
Yeah, militantgrind.com has
Mhm.
everything. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go on militantgrind.com, that's like a host of where you can find a podcast or YouTube or contact me.
Mhm.
Militant Grind Academy, the merch, you know what I'm saying, the book. I just came out with a journal called The Spiritual Grind. So that's actually on Amazon, and my book From Grit to Greatness, Harnessing the Five Pillars of the Militant Grind, is on Amazon as well. So yeah, militantgrind.com has everything. And militant grind underscore on Instagram is still up.
Oh,
I don't have
that's
my
okay.
personal Instagrams up, but that one is still up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
And
because that's a business
I'll
purpose.
include all of that in the show notes as well. And the way I close out all the shows, Sherm, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. pretend that the young Sherm came in. He's out there pushing his candy, he's doing his thing, but he's seeing his boys, he's seeing all of the things going on around him, and he's just hoping that he can find a way out. He may be struggling, he may be just trying to figure it out. Pretend that young 12-year-old boy came into the Zoom room, give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Wow. I had a lot of dark times since I was a kid. Shit. Let me think. Oh, because I know I'll for sure tell them to stay focused. Everything's gonna be okay. And the best person to rely on is yourself. And make sure you do all that you can to be true to yourself as well as be the best version of yourself, no matter what anyone says or thinks about you. Not that I've ever cared what anybody thought anyway, because it's like I never had anyone, in my life that will say, "Oh, you're the best," or "You could do it," or anything like that. I was more so talking to myself the whole time, as it is. So, that's yeah. I just say stay focused and stay the course, and everything's gonna be okay.
I love that, man. I love that. And I'm sure you just helped quite a few people who are listening, young men that are listening. You did mention wanting to serve young boys as well. So, sure, just those words of encouragement is going to help them stay, like you said, stay focused, because it,
Mhm.
it does take somebody from the outside looking at an older cat, like an OG, coming in and just saying, hey, like your neighbors, coming in and say, hey, just stay focused. There's a brighter day, man. So,
Yeah,
appreciate having you, man. This has been an absolute blast. I gotta gotta have you back on and do more of this, and figure something out, because we gotta definitely stay in touch, man. So
yeah, man, definitely. I mean, whenever, bro, just if you serious, just let me know. I'll pop back up. You know what
uh,
I'm saying?
absolutely, and I'm gonna start listening to your show as well, man, and tuning in. I see you got a big platform as well. So
Thank
all
you.
that, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.